How to service your transmission on a 2004 Chevrolet Cavalier. First, pull the e-brake. Second, pop your hood. Third, open up your hood. And admire. And if y'all ain't shoving a cone filter onto your factory intake and painting it red, don't follow me. Locate transmission fill. Right there. You like that? You're gonna have to remove a whole air box. That is your fill cap right there. Next, disconnect your battery. You don't necessarily have to. It's just a good practice to do, no matter what you're doing working on a car. Next, you want to jack up the car, but you need it to be level. The entire car must be level. So you're either going to need 4 jack stands or a couple ramps and a couple jack stands. You're going to have to figure that part out. But let's get this thing jacked up. Alright, once you're jacked up, nice and level, 4 jacks. My bottle jack back there is just for moral support. But fairly level, doesn't have to be perfect, but I'd say good enough. Next, if you're like me in Houston and you run AC all the time, you might want to wipe all that shit up before you climb under there on your back. I also got a crawler. I don't know. I recommend one, but if you don't have one, you don't need one. The crawler would be nice. Next, stay hydrated. If you didn't know, the Chevy Cavalier comes equipped with a topo opener. Just FYI. Next, grab you an 8mm socket. Now, crawl your way under, and we're going to be removing the bolts off the transmission pan. Goes all the way around it. Don't remove the bolt all the way. Just loosen up each one, or else you're going to get a face full of transmission fluid as you go around. Almost forgot to mention it. Get yourself a drain bucket of some sort. I have a oil receptacle there. It's kind of hard to see with the glare, but you are going to have transmission fluid start leaking. As you loosen up, I try to loosen up one side a little bit more than the other way. That way, as you can see, it's only leaking out the front. I'm going to let it drain for a little while. Also, make sure your car cools down a good amount before you start draining. My transmission fluid was still a little bit warm. Nothing to burn me, but definitely let it cool down a little bit before you do it. I just kind of hand loosened everything down underneath. It dribbled for a little bit, but kind of stopped. Before taking out any screws or thinking that it's empty, remove the cap, relieve some of the pressure, and you should get a little more drainage at the bottom. Alright, now that I got it out, I let it dribble until it was empty. And then, as you drop it down, just be careful, all the fluid's going to come out. Now we're going to clean it. Next, you want to take out the filter. This black guy right here. You'll just pull down on it from this side. But I need 2 hands for that, so I'm pausing y'all. Why do Cavalier transmissions last so long? Because it's shaped like Florida. Alright, once you pull out that filter, you might have to pry it out a little bit, just be careful. But a little brass ring right there has to come out. I'm going to gently pull it out with a little pry tool, flathead screwdriver. Right. Once you pull out that brass ring, you should have a new one that comes in your kit. I'm going to give this a little wipe down though. Got the new ring in, a little bit of tapping with a hammer, protected with a little bit of cardboard. Now you just put the new filter in. I'm gonna slide this right up into that hole and align the rest with the shape of the transmission. need two hands for this, but you go. Once in, it should hold itself up. If it's still sagging, keep pushing her in. Just be careful, it's plastic. Already done, but go ahead and clean your pant with some brake fluid. This is the inside. And make sure your gasket lines up before you go any further. Just be sure you got the right one. Go ahead and put a couple bolts through the rubber seal. Then carefully carry the whole thing up under there and try to thread on those couple of them, and then we can put in the rest. Once under here, just get all the bolts lined up. Make sure they go through the gasket. You see the gasket going around there. Make sure it goes through all the holes. This front one right here does not get a bolt. I figured that out just now. The gasket doesn't have a hole, but the bolt doesn't go through there. So quirky, I don't know. Next, torque it up kind of like you would a tire on the corner, and just X your way across. Make sure you evenly tighten up all the bolts.
Black red light. Got my cruise, dog.
That damn green's point, I swear. Here we go.
Make your cruise out running on me.
But you gotta listen to this.
He's deep stick. Y'all didn't even get nowhere.
I know, they barely made it anywhere.
Y'all sound like you're running the 8th mile, but you only went like 5 points. Wow.
It smelled like a lawnmower. So once you tighten them up in crisscross pattern, go ahead and torque them all to factory specs, which in my case is tight because I don't have a torque wrench, but I recommend you using a torque wrench and actually torquing them to specs, but I just put them on roughly as tight as they were when I took them off. I went ahead and went with Castrol Transmax high mileage. Any transmission fluid that is Dextron 3, I believe, is what you want. But it should be about 6.9 quarts. Alright, and on the passenger side of the transmission, you're going to want to remove this bolt. If you can point at it. There you go. Yep. Remove that bolt. Once you remove that bolt, we're going to add fluid from the top until the fluid starts dribbling out of the hole that bolt was in. There is no dipstick on this thing. So if you're like me, you run into the problem of fluid leaking from the back side of the pan facing the rear of the car. You can see that I have added an extra bolt and nut going through it because I had trans fluid leaking from the top of this. I don't recommend this, but that's what I did.
We did it like this.
Alright, once some of that trans fluid started leaking out that hole, had a buddy of mine underneath plug it up while I was adding the fluid. So you're just going to tighten that bolt back up to a factory torque spec of tight. And that should do it. Like I said, we had a little leak on the pan. We had to run an aftermarket performance bolt through it. You can see the nut on the top. And that took care of the leak. Hopefully y'all don't have that problem. Last time I serviced this, I didn't have that problem. But I have a feeling that's where my leak was coming from. May have been from over torquing the other bolts. I'm sure if it was, you'll let me know in a comment. Alrighty. But now all that's left, now that it's filled up, is to close the fill cap. And then start her up, run her through some gears. And then just do another check to make sure that the right amount of fluid's in there. Next, you just want to run it through the gears. I went ahead and fired her up. Go reverse, neutral, drive. You could go 3, 2, 1 if you want. Mine my shift cable is not in the right spot, so it actually doesn't want to go the third. That's the next fix I got to do. So I'm gonna just roll through what I got. And I already did it twice before, but there was one for y'all to see. So I've done it 3 times. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the engine and unplug that side bolt to see if she overflows. So ideally, we should have a tiny bit of fluid dribbling out whenever we take this off. If not, we need to add some. Wonder if my phone picks that up. No fluid?
Yeah, a little bit running out.
A little bit. I think should I add just a tad to let it kind of spurt out a little bit?
It's coming. It's drizzling. I'm gonna put more in it.
Here, go ahead and wait right there. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more.
All right.
So it may change for you. I had to add a full quart after running it through the gears in order for it to come out in a nice little steady stream. Once that little steady stream started pouring out that little hole on the side of the transmission, we plugged her up and don't have any leaks. We're gonna drop it down and give her a proper test drive. Now, you just take her for a test drive. Make sure everything's working good. Mine was slipping when I was turning left. I don't know if y'all are having that issue too. I think I was just low on fluid because I had a leak. But I'm gonna see if I still have that problem and report back to you. So far, so good. I am in reverse now. Getting myself a little runway here. I'm gonna go into drive. Filter shifting nice and smooth. Let's see. 1 shift. 2 shifts. That's about all I can get with the area I got. But I'd say doing all right. Back in reverse. And now, gonna go change a torque converter on this here Suburban over here. One that we got pulled up in there. So, wish me luck on that one. But for now, I'll catch y'all later.